Welcome to the BEASTwriter family where social media engagement is encouraged. I am your host, Ryan Sakamoto, and today we are going to be making sense of the Carolina Panthers trading for quarterback Sam Darnold. That is right. Sam Darnold is now off to the Carolina Panthers, and I'm going to break that down brick by brick as to why that move was made. But before we go ahead and do that, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for subscribing to my channel. Just be sure to turn on and flip on the bell notifications so you get notified when I go live or when I upload content. Also, I'm looking at my analytics and I'm seeing about 57% of you guys are liking all my stuff, watching all my videos, but have yet to subscribe to my channel. So please do your boy a solid and hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner of your screen as you stay up to date on all things Beast in real time. All right, so without further ado, we're just going to dive right into it. Let's discuss how this trade impacts both the New York Jets and the Carolina Panthers as it pertains to Sam Darnold being the most prized asset and tradable value piece in this deal. All right, so let me just bring up the ticker. I know you guys love these tickers. All right, so trailer, the Jets, as you see here, trade quarterback Sam Darnold to the Carolina Panthers. And the question now remains to be seen, why? What was the asking price? What did they get in return? Well, the Panthers get obviously Sam Darnold. The Jets get 3 draft picks in return. That's a 2021 6th-round pick and a 2022 second-round pick and a 2022 4th-round pick. So in all, you get 3 draft picks in return for GM Joe Douglas so he can mortgage his future and play the draft how he sees fits in future years. Whereas in return, GM Scott Fitterer, being the aggressive GM that he is, goes ahead and picks down and picks up a really good quarterback who has yet to write his story in the NFL. Now, let me just go ahead and talk about the parameters of making this deal. As you guys know, I like to break it down into 3 parameters in simplest form as I formulate all my podcasts. The first parameter, if you're new to subscribing, this is how I like to run my podcast. Again, the first parameter is who are the players or coaches involved. The second parameter is why the move was made or potentially could be made. And the last but not least parameter is the instant gratification versus long-term gains. All right, so let's talk about, well, in this case, it's a player and draft pick. So we're just going to dive right into it and talk about Sam Darnold. Let's pull up that ticker. Say it ain't Sam. You guys like Sam? I think it's up there. Is it up there? Can never tell. Yeah, it's up there. All right. So who is Sam Darnold, right? Well, Sam Darnold was the Jets' 2018 first-round pick, drafted number 3 overall. In that draft, people thought that the Cleveland Browns were going to take Sam Darnold. However, he fell to number 3, and the Browns ultimately took Baker Mayfield out of Oklahoma. With that being said, he came out of USC, as in Sam Darnold. And till this day in his career coming out, he has 45 touchdowns against 39 interceptions, and he also threw for 8,097 passing yards. So those are his career numbers, and I'm going to break it down brick by brick as to why I like Sam Darnold, despite what other people say. A lot of my colleagues are saying, oh, he's damaged goods, he's not the answer, he sucks, he's this, he's that. If you watched my earlier podcast on Sam Darnold possibly being traded to the San Francisco 49ers, you would know I'm very bullish on Sam Darnold, and for specific reasons why. Again, I look at the critical factors. A lot of people just look at stats. A lot of people just look at the game film, which you have to do. It comes down to game film. But are you really looking at it brick by brick, layer by layer? Because let's put it in perspective here. The Jets did not have a strong supporting cast. They had the worst offensive line in all the NFL. So it doesn't matter if Deshaun Watson is your quarterback, you're going to fail. Because you don't have a stable offensive line, you don't have a stable rushing attack. Le'Veon Bell was obviously let go for a reason. And then the stable wide receivers. What stable wide receivers? Jamison Crowder, that's about it. So what exactly did you have working in your favor to give your quarterback the opportunity to have the most success in that offensive scheme? Makes no sense. But let's go ahead and dive back into this podcast. I'm going to talk about why, once again, I like Sam Darnold. And again, if you missed that podcast earlier in real time on Sam Darnold potentially making a play to his way in San Francisco, I'll include that podcast in the description box below. But let's go ahead and talk about Sam Darnold and why I like him. Why am I so high on this guy? pull up the ticker. All right, or it's up there. Okay, cool. So these are the reasons why I like Sam Darnold, right? Let's talk about some of his strengths here. Is that up there? Yeah, it's up there. All right, so let's talk about his strengths. Well, he's 6'3", 221 pounds. From a prototypical quarterback height, weight, speed standpoint, you know what you're getting with Sam Darnold. He's the NFL prototype quarterback that you look for in any given draft. Second of all, he has the NFL arm talent to make all the throws. So it doesn't matter if he's on platform or off platform, he can make all the throws. He has a nice velocity when the ball comes out of his hands, and the ball placement where he puts it on the proper shoulder to the receiver is very accurate. And it doesn't matter if it's in the what I call like the SID game, the short, intermediate, or deep passing game. He is very accurate in all three levels. And again, double down on that. When under duress, it's very important for the quarterback to keep his eyes downfield so he can kind of look off the free safety as he's going through his progressions and then find the receiver coming hot off his stem and gaining the initial step of separation so he can go ahead and make that catch and then yards after the catch after that. So again, by throwing on the proper shoulder and throwing in stride, looking off defensive backs, Sam Darnold gets it from the shoulders up. He is a very cerebrally smart quarterback. And again, why people are not high on Sam Darnold is beyond me. Now, let's go ahead and take it a step further. I talk about him being under duress, right? Like, how does he do under pressure? Well, he has a natural feel for edge rushing pressure. So what that means is he's very poised and calm and cool and collected. Despite being under pressure, he is not rattled by, let's say, a Chase Young in his face. He will take the hit, deliver the throw, and to the receiver in stride. These are things that I like about Sam Darnold's game. He also adds dual threat ability. So not only are you getting a one-trick pony, he's not just a pure pocket passer like a Mac Jones. He's more of a dual threat quarterback to where you can actually run some zone read options if you wanted to with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is a very big, athletically gifted quarterback. I like what I see from Sam Darnold's game. And again, when you look at what he does, and going through the critical factors and running through his progressions, he has a feel for desired timing routes. That's something that you don't see from quarterbacks coming out of the NFL draft. That's something that you have to get, you kind of coach up, because again, when you put it in perspective and we're doing the scouting evaluation process during the NFL Combine and pro days and whatnot, what is the one thing you look for in a quarterback? Accuracy. What's the second thing you look for in a quarterback? Obviously, I think 1A and 1B would be, toughness, leadership. Does he check off all the boxes in that regard, being a team leader? Yes, Sam Darnold has all these things checked off, which is why I believe if who was to come out of this year's draft class, he would be my number 2 ranked quarterback. And I agree with Mel Kiper, because Mel Kiper said the same exact thing. He said if Sam Darnold was to come out of this 2021 NFL draft class, he would probably have Sam Darnold ranked number 1 or number 2. I would agree with that. I like Sam Darnold a lot. And again, the desired feel for the timing routes that Sam Darnold has plays in his favor. And it doesn't matter what system he's in. Now, let's go ahead and talk about his weakness, because he does have some weaknesses, right? So I'm really bullish on Sam Darnold. But again, it could be buyer beware. We got to play a little bit of devil's advocate here. I think the weakness is up. Is that the weakness ticker up? Let's make sure that weakness ticker is up. Yes, it is. Okay. The weakness in this game is he has a really elongated, slowing throwing motion. Like, it's like here, he winds up and it's like, and the DB is like, oh man, he's going to throw it. He's going to throw it. He's going to throw it. And then that will allow the defensive back to get an early break on the ball, leading to pass breakups, leading to interceptions, tip balls, you name it. That's something that really concerns me about Sam Darnold's game is his windup. His throwing motion takes a little bit longer than what you like to see from like a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo has a really quick release as opposed to a guy like Sam Darnold. Furthermore, doubling down on that, let's talk about what hurts Jimmy Garoppolo's game is the same thing with Sam Darnold, is the deep throw. He's not the most accurate when it comes to the third level. Now, I did say he's accurate in all 3 levels, but as it pertains to the third level, like the really deeper throws, like on the 25-yard outs, the corners, the posts, the fly go routes, I would have to admit that Sam Darnold needs some fine-tuning there. All right. Uh, to put that in perspective, then you double down on that, or triple down on that, I should say, and you talk about the short passing game. Well, sometimes he rifles the ball when he doesn't need to. Like the ball just comes out of his hands so hot that the receiver doesn't have time to catch it. And it's like within 5 yards. It's like, dude, why'd you have to rifle it? We're 5 yards away from each other. So these are some things that kind of hurt Sam Darnold's game, but these are things that could definitely be coached up at the NFL level. And again, I think Matt Rule and Joe Brady can get the job done. I am very confident that Sam Darnold will revive his career in Carolina. I think this is a very smart play for the Carolina Panthers and GM Scott Fitterer. They hit it out of the ballpark with a home run, not giving up a first-round pick for him. I don't think any team would give up a first-round pick for him, but only yielding a sixth-round pick this year and a second and fourth round pick next year. I would do that deal in a heartbeat time and time again because the risk is well worth the reward. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about that, right? Our last parameter, or second parameter, why the move was made. Why was the move made for both parties, right? It has to be a win-win, theoretically, right? Well, from the Panthers' perspective, the Panthers GM Scott Fitterer needed a quarterback, right? Teddy Bridgewater is not his man. That was Marty Hurney's man. And that's why Marty Hurney is not in Carolina anymore. He is now unemployed. And GM Scott Fitterer comes in as acting GM in 2021. And if you're looking at the financial balance sheet and actually looking at the analytical numbers, you will know that you can move on from Teddy Bridgewater as opposed to in one cut, saving the team in excess of $7.9 million in cap savings. What this means is Teddy Bridgewater, is likely on the trading block. Now, where that's going to be in Miami, where that's going to be in Washington or somewhere else that needs a quarterback, that remains to be seen. But don't be surprised if Teddy Bridgewater gets moved after he restructures his deal. Again, he is tied to this 3-year, multi-million-dollar deal, and it's too rich for most teams' bloods to go ahead and take on that contract. He's going to have to restructure, changing his contract in a way that the roster bonus is now converted into the signing bonus over the remainder of his contract. So stay tuned for that. Also, what it does is it also allows, the Panthers draft flexibility at number 8. They currently hold the number 8 overall pick, and people were saying, oh, they're going to go quarterback at number 8. They're going to go quarterback at number 8. And I said, not so fast. And people are like, oh, no, they're going after Mac Jones. I was like, not so fast. Why? Because, again, that's not GM Scott Fitterer's method of operation. Again, if you watch my earlier podcast on GM Scott Fitterer, it got a lot of good feedback and a lot of good engagement from Panthers fans, and keep pounding because they're asking me, like, Beast, you cover all 32. I want to know who Scott Fitterer is. I was like, you're in luck. I followed this guy for the better half of the last 7 years. I know what he likes to do. I know what he doesn't like to do. And he always goes BPA, best player available at number 8, regardless of need. And that's exactly what Scott Fitterer is doing, right? He's looking there, sitting at 8, and says, you know what? There's not going to be a quarterback available at 8. I know that. I can get the best quarterback in this draft class, or second best quarterback in this draft class, in Sam Darnold, because I'm still high on this kid. If he were to come out of this draft class, he would be a steal, getting him at number 8, and we can get him through trade without giving up our first round pick. Why not make that deal? Makes perfect sense, right? So Scott Fitterer, again, I put up an earlier podcast on Scott Fitterer. Once he became the team's GM, you can watch that podcast in the description box below. Again, I like tying earlier podcasts into this one, so I leave no stone unturned, and you can see what I had to say in real time and compare that into hindsight. All right, so getting back to Scott Fitterer, let's go ahead. I'm just going to pull up something that Scott Fitterer said that was very interesting. You don't have to take my word for it that he goes BPA, but hey, take Scott Fitterer's word for it. This is what he said after the trade was made. We wanted to get to a place where the roster was in a good spot and we could take the best player available at number 8. We could always move up and we could always move back, but this puts us in a position to make the right football decision for this team moving forward. There you go. Boom. And what does that mean? Well, if they're sitting there at number 8, ultimately, I think they're going to go and select a horizontal player, select a player on their horizontal board. Now, I talk about the vertical board or the big board, which is basically, regardless of need, this is how these players stack up. You also have your horizontal board based on the positional needs. Don't be surprised if they roll with cornerback Patrick Surtain if he slips that fall. Doesn't even make sense. If he slips that far to number 8, or go after offensive tackle / offensive guard Rashawn Slater. Now, people can look at this and say, well, if Penei Sewell is on the board, would they go after Penei Sewell out of Oregon? Yes, that's a possibility because, again, he would be a best player available option. However, with that being said, they already signed Riley Reef to play blindside left tackle, and they just franchise tagged Taylor Moton. So exactly when you have both those players set in at tackle, where does Penei Sewell fit into the equation? And then why did you sign Riley Reef if you knew you were sitting there at number 8 and possibly this scenario could potentially be playing out? That's why you peel back layers of the onion to get to the core. And ultimately, I think Rashawn Slater might be better kicked into guard as opposed to maybe an offensive tackle. Because again, the arm length for me is concerning. And arm length does play a role down in the trenches. It really does. So ultimately, am I saying because of his arm length, he can't play tackle? No. But what I'm saying is I think he's best suited for guard. He'd be a nice plug and play there. Obviously, the Carolina Panthers have a need at guard. If he's sitting there, don't be surprised if he's the pick. And I know if you're looking at my NFL draft and NFL draft analytics, you would know that there's been only 8 offensive guards drafted in the top 10 since 1990. But technically, Rashawn Slater would be an offensive tackle, offensive guard, so he'd be considered a tweener or a hybrid. But with that being said, don't be surprised if Rashawn Slater's the pick. If not him, they can use someone better than Troy Pride Jr. And I think that guy could also be cornerback Patrick Surtain Jr. Like him a lot. Hey, he's number 5 on my big board for a reason. I love Patrick Surtain Jr. All right, so with that being said, you can't go wrong with either one. Now let's break it down into my last but not least parameter, the instant gratification versus long-term gains. Right? We got to talk about that. Instant gratification versus long-term gains. What is the instant gratification versus long-term gains? Well, from the Jets' perspective, GM Joe Douglas gets draft capital. He gets 3 draft picks to mortgage his future. And the Jets have a lot of holes, whether it's quarterback, running back, tight end, right tackle, offensive guard, center, middle linebacker, outside linebacker, quarterback, strong safety. You get it. They have the most needs of any team in the NFL. And by leveraging this trade, you then mortgage your future with draft capital. So now you're not having to overpay for free agents and upcoming free agency classes because you have draft picks. You can fill those needs through the draft. And that's how you leverage the salary cap. All right. So smart play by GM Joe Douglas. It also gives Robert Saleh undivided locker room attention. What I mean by that is you're going to have, and you're sitting there at number 2 with the number 2 overall pick. Obviously, you're going to select a quarterback because you don't have anyone. Now, could Jimmy Garoppolo make his way to the New York Jets? I don't know, maybe, but that's fool's gold to think that they're going to be sitting there at 2 unless they trade out of that spot. If they're sitting there at number 2, ultimately that guy can be Zach Wilson. And if Zach Wilson or Justin Fields or whoever, pick your poison quarterback that the New York Jets have, this will set precedent for the foreseeable future that there is no locker room dynamic or a toxic locker room dynamic, because if Sam Darnold was sitting there because he was a top 5 pick as well, you would kind of have a rift between who do you want, Sam Darnold or this new quarterback. And with Sam Darnold now out of the picture, this puts that new quarterback in a win-win situation. So again, this is a win-win for not only the New York Jets, but that quarterback coming into play. Now from the Panthers perspective, they're looking at the instant gratification versus long-term gains, and they're just looking at the long game here. The instant gratification is, yeah, we'll give up the draft capital. We don't care about a 6th-round pick because how many 6th-round picks make an NFL roster? We don't care about our 2nd-round pick next year because how many Sam Darnolds are in next year's draft, right? Furthermore, dumbing down on that, and then you say, okay, well, a 4th-round pick, okay, a 4th-round pick is a 4th-round pick, so 2nd and 4th-round pick basically for Sam Darnold, I'll do that in a heartbeat, because if he was to come out of this draft, again, he would be my number 2 ranked quarterback coming out of this draft class, which is a really strong draft class, so for the quarterback position. So with that being said, I like this move by GM Scott Fitterer. It's a win-win for him because he gets the quarterback of the future, and it's a low-risk, high-reward move. All right, so looking at all parties involved, this is a win-win for both sides. I really like this deal. from both organization standpoints. And what are your thoughts, Jets fans, Panthers fans, Niner fans? How does this impact the draft moving forward? I want to hear your thoughts. And again, thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. I have a lot of fun doing this. And again, without you, I wouldn't be in the position I am today. So mahalo, mahalo, mahalo. If you liked what I had to say, please hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner of your screen as you stay up to date on all things Beast in real time. Also, you'll be entered to win our every Family Fridays, our 49ers Fit, Drive Fit t-shirt, which is what we're giving away for the Family Friday giveaway this Friday, 2:30 p.m. on our live stream. And if you're a Panthers fan, Jets fan, or whatever fan, NFL team, and you ultimately win and you don't want this 49ers Fit t-shirt, not to worry. Just go head over to the team store and I got you covered on $25 value gift card of your choice. All right. So thank you so much. Be sure to subscribe, spread the word to all your family and friends, and let's spread the love, not hate. Mahalo. BEASTwriter is now out. Peace.